Hello and welcome to another episode of PropTech Buzz. And today we are in conversation with Irina Constantin. She is an entrepreneur, an educator, and an obstacle course athlete. Very interesting. At 21, she founded a software development agency and has since co founded VAUNT, a profitable PropTech startup streamlining sales processes for residential assets. As CEO and CTO, Razwan Mitre grew the company to list over $2.1 million in assets by 2023 with 70 plus active residential developers, named Forbes 30 under 30 in 2022. Wow, Irina is passionate about using technology to solve real estate challenges. Irina, can you briefly share a bit about yourself and what inspired you to launch Bond?
Yeah, of course. Firstly, I would like to get to say that we grew the company to $2.1 billion in assets. It's 2.1 in 2023. I think we got close to 2.7. We're going to be by the end of the year. So my name is Irina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bond. Got to tell you something about myself. I've been entrepreneurship since I was 16. I always wanted to do stuff that made a difference in the world. And generally, I always spend my time tinkering and learning different types of things. Before I got to college, where I studied computer science, I spent my time learning programming and design on my own. I started getting in the gaming industry where I started doing like custom objects for games, and then I started selling them inside games, and then I ended up working in the gaming industry, which I thought I'm gonna be there forever, but I decided it was not for me because I always had that itch that I wanted to build something, and I wanted to do something that has a lasting impact. And together with my co-founder, we always dreamed about building a global company that has a positive impact in the world. So at 21, I convinced him to quit our corporate jobs and start our own software agency. And why we did that is because at that time, we realized we don't have enough experience in order to build something long lasting. So we were like, okay, let's help people build their own ideas. And as we progress and we see more of the world, we start to understand different types of things. So what happened is back in 2018, we chatted with the real estate developer, and we helped him build a custom ERP, which made us understand a lot more about the residential industry and about how the world works and how there is a lot of opportunity in the space to change different processes, to make it faster, to capitalize on certain aspects of the business, and understand this ecosystem. And prior to this company, we also had other startups like we did a product similar to Open Table, if you're familiar with, which is like reservations in restaurants and managing reservations on the other side. And also we built other consumer products that worked in retail as well. So let's say we had a wide experience in dealing with a lot of data and a lot of processes and putting it into a way that makes sense for the user. And how we landed on Bond is it's quite interesting because after we developed that ERP, we realized there's a need in the market with processes to make it more accessible. The problem that we personally saw is like a salesperson does more than they should be doing. Like they act like a psychologist. They do sales, they do marketing, they get involved in even going to the construction site, and they do so many things. And I don't know if you know, there is that theory that you cannot remember more than 150 contacts, including your personal ones. So it's like, how can we give them like a power suit to remember everything about what they're doing and what they're dealing with. And fast forward to 2024, here we are, more close to 80 developers we're working with, $2.1 billion in assets, and now extending the business with a marketplace that allows our customers to do more transactions on the international market.
Oh, that's amazing, actually. So y'all started off at gaming and y'all landed up in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a very interesting journey, but it's actually quite inspirational. So, how has the journey been so far?
Um, well, it's you mean the transition between like transitioning?
Going
Well,
from
it's still software, to give you that. So you still have to solve problems. And when you work in the gaming industry, and it's something that it's very looked upon, and people don't think about it. When you do something, it's always that reward that you get from the thing that you're doing. It's called gamification in the gaming industry, and I think we could use more of that concept in other softwares as well. I feel like even in B2B products or products that we build for corporate structures, is like, how do you give the incentive to the user to use your platform and make it more interesting for him? So in this sense, for us, it has been interesting to understand the psychology and mentality of our user and see how we can apply from what we learned previously to use the product. In terms of like how is the journey so far, I feel like this is very, it's for every, it's available for every type of startup founder. I feel like you need to remember yourself, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you need, I feel like part of our success is to be able to be someone in the market and establish ourselves as someone in the market that our customers can trust, and also that our customers can rely on to bring innovation and technology in their company.
So, can you tell us more about when VAUNT was founded, why VAUNT, and what problem you're solving in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched Font at end of 2020. The purpose was to help developers streamline their sales process from the moment they receive the building permit till apartment handover. To give you a sense of it, this was like a CRM between a CRM and an ERP. So property inventory, financial stats, everything related to marketing and interactions around that area. And our goal is like to build the ecosystem of sales processes in the residential world. This is our big vision. We believe that transactions in real estate shouldn't be local. They should be able to be done everywhere and in a simple manner, following the same steps. And things could go much faster. And that was our bet.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So, what have been the key milestones and decisions that helped VAUNT stay on track towards profitability in your early stages?
Sure. So, firstly, something that we did probably atypical to other companies. So, there are multiple ways to run a company. You can bootstrap it on your own, you can raise capital. We basically bootstrap the company. So, what it means for us, we built exactly something we could charge money for. So, we charged clients from day one. We didn't offer free accounts because we had strong conviction in what the market needed, but we also had previous experience on what was the thing that developers were looking for. And I feel like that helped us position ourselves like, hey, there's a product, this is an established product, we're working on it, we're asking you for money. This was the first thing. The second thing that I feel like it was very important for us, and actually the thing we started with, we wanted Bond to be a global company. So that means it from the initial phases, we prototyped, and the way we built the infrastructure of the product was to scale. And I recommend that, because something that people don't think about is like they blame costs on cloud solutions, but you can save a lot of money by building an infrastructure fitted to something scalable. This is technical, but I feel like this is useful. And another thing is like we try to find creative ways to land our customers. We had a very unusual customer acquisition that I shared in on my newsletter on LinkedIn. So basically, at first, I would go on the construction sites door to door to try and nail conversations with developers, because we didn't have a huge marketing budget. And while talking to people, I realized that these type of people don't spend that much time on LinkedIn, and there is a way to attract them by building a campaign forums on Facebook. And that was my bet, and we acquired customers with $3 that converted, which was insane back then. But keep in mind, for everybody that's listening, that these type of things change with time and algorithms, because we did that in a timing where everybody spent more time online chronically. Everybody was chronically online. And right now the algorithms have changed. But if you want to take something from this, always try to think something from outside the box to get you clients to the door. So being these type of personality, I feel like these three things made us and was the basis for creating a profitable company. And more than that, I think another thing that helped us push forward through, let's say, more difficult times is we wanted to build a company where people love to work at, and also not only love to work at, but we wanted every customer interaction that we had, whether they wanted to work with us or not, to and leave like they knew something more about the industry and the trends. So eventually they would come back to us. And a lot of people that we talked to and they weren't ready back then, or were not, I don't know, we weren't a good fit back then. Now they're coming back to us. So always keep in mind, no matter who you talk to, make sure that that person can be a potential customer in the future. And that has snowballed and proved to be right in the upcoming years.
Okay, that was a very interesting anecdote to listen to, because so you're bootstrapped, but you're revenue generating from the beginning. So that by itself is an amazing accomplishment, because there are a lot of major companies that take several years to become profitable and revenue generating. So that's very incredible. Also, you're a very astute young lady, because you realize that they don't spend time on LinkedIn, so you'd probably find them on Facebook. So I find that very interesting. Have you ever done reading on this, or do you just figure it from experience, or from picking it up from people?
You know what's interesting? I feel like there are multiple things that helped me get to this place, and I had this conversation with another founder friend yesterday. So personally, I am a technical person, but also creative. So I always love to understand the psychology behind decisions. I feel like what helps, even if you want to become a founder who bootstraps the company or raises capital, it's important to understand what the other person expects at the end of the line, and what can you solve, or how can you align your values with that person. And separate to that, I also did marketing campaigns for residential projects. And I used to be separate to this. I used to be I used to work on content strategy media with influencers. So basically, my responsibility was to take their, let's say, accounts from 5K to millions of reaches. So it's important to understand how you get to those people, how you speak on their language, and how you do that. But separate to all this experience, it's because I like people, and that has helped me manage to hire my team, get my co-founder on board. It's because I like to understand what is somebody motivated by, and also what is their end goal. And I feel like when you can put that together and align it, usually it's a no-brainer to say, yes, I want to work with you, or yes, I want to take your product. And I would recommend people switch it from that angle, because I know it's very difficult to get no's. It's very difficult to say, to get somebody to say no, or somebody to trash your product, because it happens, because it's your baby. But at the same time, you need to understand that probably you didn't convey the idea, or you were not aligned with that person and their expectations. And most of the time, a lot of people don't know what they want, so you need to find out what they want, or guide them through that process.
You're a natural salesperson. You are. That's what you are. I get it. You're two things.
Thank
You're
you.
genuine, and and you give them value, and that's what happens with you. I get it now. So
Thank you.
okay, so you hired a new advisor, Joe Matthews. So what made motivated you to make that decision, and how do you see his expertise fitting into Vaughn's growth strategy?
Yeah, so I'll backtrack it from the advisor, and for the people who are listening to this. So when you get an advisor on board, you need to understand what you want from that person. And what happens is, like, depending on where you want to take your company, and if you want to build a global company, and if you haven't done it previously, and probably most of us haven't done it, you need to surround yourself with the right people to help you in the right direction. I know Joe for quite a bit, and we've been talking back and forth, like, even I think from the earlier stages of the company, I would just like talk to him, keep him on the loop. He's besides the fact that he's a very wonderful person and very caring, understanding, and understand what it means to grow a business. He has previous experience in growing huge businesses and selling them and getting acquired, or he worked with companies that got acquired by Dachshund. And um, I feel like there was tremendous opportunity for us to work together, because prior to this, we worked a bit on navigating a couple of things. Because when you work with an advisor, you gotta think about that person of what are their skills and qualities that you don't have or you want to develop, so you can get there. So he's been a very important part for us to extend in the States, to understand the market here, to understand how you take the product, because everybody says US is a huge market. Exactly. It is a huge market, which means that you cannot take the whole market at first, and you need to understand that you need to start with other niches, and the niches are much broader than you think. So that means, coming back to marketing and sales, you got to be more specific on ideal customer persona that what you would think, because you would say, "Oh, I'm coming to the States and we're opening the market to international investors." Yeah, any investor can come and purchase a property, which is not right, because investing, especially in real estate, has different types of flavors. The market moves differently here. It's a different type of dynamic. So I think it's useful to get clarity on that. And I think he was instrumental in figuring out that. But most it's like, what are the next steps for us? What do we need to do? How's our hiring process looking like?
So, taking this question a little forward, then I would like to ask, what would you going back and thinking about the decisions that you've made to reach this point ever since 2020? What would have been one of the most important decisions you have made for your company, where your company's growth was concerned?
Okay. I feel like and it's gonna sound a bit cheesy, I feel like the decision was come to the States. So back in 2020, we decided what would it take for us to build this bridge between Europe and US, and what does that look like? And we decided to take a risk, come here, chat with people, and try to understand the market and see where it takes us. And just by taking that decision, it snowballed us to becoming more proficient, to optimize our product, to make it faster, to bring AI, to also be more intentional with our steps. So, and we grew quite a bit just by that decision of doing that. And I would suggest, like, to everybody, if you feel like you are in a position where you, I don't know, you feel stuck or you feel like things are not going as it is, it's like swing for the roofs, have the right conversation. And also the thing that scares you the most, sometimes it's like the best thing you can do.
So, talking about risks and taking chances, you all decided to be bootstrapped, which
Yeah.
a lot of companies, the minute they start thinking about scalability, the minute they start thinking about, just a runway or just moving forward or growth, the first thing they think about is raising funds. And you all decided to go the bootstrapped way. So that's thinking very traditionally. And what would you think about making that decision? What did you all ever doubt that?
So where we started out in Romania, I feel like the ecosystem is more developed right now. And at first, it wasn't that developed. So I feel like you take these decisions depending, what I've learned is depending on the countries that you're from, and also depending on your background. Because when you pursue venture capital, it helps to have previous experiences in building other companies, and also being funded, because it takes the risk off some investors' plate. And you got to understand that and be okay with that. And also, it feels like it, depending on type of industry you are, there are certain moments when you need to access capital or not. And I'll tell you why, because there are differences between running a bootstrap company and a company who raises capital. And I'm saying that because we plan on raising capital. But I feel like you gotta be diligent with the company where you're taking it, because when you bootstrap the company, you can grow at the pace that you want. Nobody forces you. You can figure out your customer. You can take your time, whatever you want. When you are and you're taking institutional capital, basically what it means, it's you have a certain money in the bank that it's gonna last you 18 to 24 months. But after that, you need to show traction numbers, whatever it is, so you can get to the next round. So what happened, especially if we look back in the last 4 years with financing, what happens is, like, there was a time where raising capital was cheap, but a bunch of those people who raised money couldn't raise money anymore because of the ecosystem. So if we were to, my perspective on it, it's like, when you raise money, make sure it's intentional and make sure you know exactly what you want to get out of it, and make sure you can have options. What does that mean? No matter if you're raising money or not, your responsibility is to build a good company and build a product that solves people's problems, build a company you want to be in and your team wants to be in. Because when times get tough, and I talked to a bunch of founders who raised millions of dollars, if you are not doing any of those, it's gonna be hard for you to continue. You will shut down your company, you will walk away with nothing, and you don't want to do that. And also, the fundraising ecosystem has changed. We haven't seen a lot of IPOs, M&As. There isn't a lot of there is capital in the market. I don't want to say it's not, but depends where you are, depends what you're building. So if you were to ask me, regardless if you're raising money or not, build a good company. That's your responsibility. And also talking to investors and VCs, I will tell you, you're going to get interest if you know what you're doing with a company and you're building a legit business. And yes, of course, some people raise money on an idea. However, if you look into those people's background, those people built companies previously, raised money previously, or have such a, let's say, huge opportunity for distribution of their product, it's hard to miss. So it's not, so you need to take that into consideration when raising capital.
So, right, sticking to this topic, what would you say are the biggest lessons you've learned growing a company's profitability without external funding?
I feel like um I feel like it's different. It's interesting. What I'll tell you, it's hard to get the first $1,000 in. That is very hard because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know specifically the ideal customer or how to talk to that person. But after a certain point, you kind of figure out, and it's important to look for patterns so you know how to replicate them. Because once you find the thing that works, you can capitalize on it or just grow it. And you can make some good money out of it. And when that doesn't work anymore, it means you need to open up a new market. There are multiple ways to diversify income, but you basically need to find something that works. And that something that works sometimes can take a while, and that can be grueling. um, and that can be difficult, but at the same time, a thing that I would personally change that I did differently, it's like talk to more founders. I feel like one mistake that I did, and I wish I would have changed it because it would have went much faster, is like, I know it's hard as a bootstrap founder when you build your business just to stay with your clients and your team, but go out and talk to other founders, bootstrapped or not, because it's good to hear their struggles and also at the same time to hear what they learn from the process, because it's gonna accelerate your process without raising institutional money. And that is something I wish I learned earlier.
No, but I think as far as your company is concerned, and without raising external funds, if your valuation is your valuation, it is entirely your company's valuation, right? Because when other companies who maybe raise, if a company per se is $2 million and they've raised funding worth $1 million, and the company is actually worth $1 million, the post money valuation after raising 1 million additional funding is $2 million. Your money's valuation, your company's valuation is just your company's valuation, and that's something to think about. So as far as I looking as an outsider into Vaunt, it definitely seems like y'all have done everything right. I mean, if you've ever
Thank you.
read a book called The Lean Startup, have you read
Mm-hmm.
that book?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, right? You do a lot of funky things to see how your company works, and I think somewhere you'll have done that, and it's really paid off very well for you also. I think whatever y'all are doing, y'all are gonna make mistakes, but I think it's important to make them earlier than later, because
I agree with that. And one thing, it's like, don't be paralyzed by a mistake. It's okay. If it happens, just like move on and make it as fast as possible. I feel like a lot of founders freak out about doing mistakes, especially when they're bootstrapped, because they think their company is going to go down. And there is some truth associated to that. But if you don't try to assume risk and swing it for the roof, you won't be able to bootstrap the company. So some say it's like, yeah, bootstrapping, it can serve on your own terms, but it's still similar in some way to venture, because if you don't take the risk and dabble in another market, and I can share a bit about a thing that we did. So when we started out, we had Bond Agency and Bond Developer. Bond Agency basically targeted the real estate agencies. So we were targeting at first the real estate agencies and the developers. we still have the real estate, we have the product for agencies, but what happened is like we realized we needed a focus and we needed to capitalize on the market which was underserved. So how we managed to capitalize that was to go the developers route. Sure, we still have that product as well and it's working and we have customers on it and we update it constantly. However, it's important to realize what's working and capitalize on that because you have limited resources and you need to assume risk on something that works. And sometimes it's hard to say no to any money when you're bootstrapped. It's very hard to do that because it's money coming in your bank and you don't have outside funding, but sometimes it's worth assuming the risk and learn from it and just move on.
Yes, that's actually really correct. It's better to have a smaller but a very targeted market rather than having a bigger audience but
Yep.
not having a target. You need to know who you're serving so you can create like a buyer persona, and then you can probably find your target market around it. So yes, that's actually very correct. And under those, understanding those values, what next for Want? What are you all looking to do? What are your next key milestones? Where are you going?
Yeah, so we always wanted, so since the day we started Bond, I even have a document on it that says that we want to become the ecosystem of the residential industry. Um, so right now our plan is to capitalize on whatever on the sales cycle and transactions. So we want to open up this marketplace where basically our developers can have more business and also on the client side to be able to facilitate this type of transaction because we understood in this process and being around people, there's a lot of, I would say it sounds weird, but there's a lot of anxiety when you're making a bigger purchase, especially when you do an investment or when you even when you acquire a software. It's like, is it gonna work out for me? Is it okay? um, is it gonna work? Am I getting what I wanted to get out of it? And we want to make sure we make this process as smooth as possible, both for the investor looking to purchase a property, but also both for the developer by of getting clients. You know, is this client legit? Is he gonna pay me? Does he have a good track record? How's the KYC process looking like? And all of that. So we're focusing on that. And we're focusing on growing the company and expanding our foothold here. I'm currently in New York, so we started doing like a couple of events in the prop tech space and trying to get our community around. I also feel like whatever product you're building, it's good to have a community around your product because those are your biggest endorsers. So this is what we are currently building right now. In terms of like business structure, in terms of like technology, our clients are going to see a lot of more smart technology automations. We already included AI in the product to make some things go faster, but we're going to capitalize on the things that you do repetitive that you don't want to do anymore. So we're focusing on making that side easier, to give you back your time to talk to customers, to focus on your own product like we focus on ours. And separate to this, something that we want to do more is try to be helpful in the startup space for people who are starting companies, for people who are bootstrapping, or for people that want to have a global vision about a product or want to move from Europe to the States like we did. And what does that process look like? Because we had to figure it out on our own. It was kind of, I wouldn't say it was difficult, but it took a while to figure it out. So if we can help other people and make it easier, why not do that? So part of the plan as well.
So exactly. So my next question, you have ended your answer on my next question, which is, what advice would you give entrepreneurs who are looking to onboard advisors, um, and what is the importance of advisory in your entire in your companies, basically?
Okay, so firstly, you gotta figure out. So you don't know what you don't know, firstly, but I assume, and if you don't have this, I recommend you do that. Take some time, spend time in a weekend to build like a vision type of document and be like, okay, I recommend two types of documents. Firstly, one is like, what is the vision of the company? What we want to change? What we want to do? What is our vision? And the second one is a very interesting exercise. It's like a post-mortem type of business. So basically, what happens is like your company died. Why did it die? This is like a post-mortem document. So why did your company not survive? And what did you do wrong? And you can backtrack from that and figure out what you think you don't know, what you don't know. And you can start from there and find the people that could help you solve those problems. I usually I have like a wonder list. It's a list of people that I think I can learn from, that I think would be useful in my growth. And it's always people that I'm looking to connect with. And there are some high profile names there that I eventually want to get to. And I recommend every founder to do that. So by doing that, you kind of figure out what your gaps are or what do you need more help with. And then you start looking for people. So this is the thing, it's like you can develop a relationship with an advisor over the time like we did, or you can find somebody, ask in your network, hey, who you know it's the best person on hiring, or the person that you would call for advice on hiring or on technical aspects, and then start chatting with that person. You need to have a couple of times where you can see if you can work with that person. You can do a vesting schedule if you want with
Okay.
that person to see if your relationship works. So don't sign anything from the beginning. Test the relationship out before doing something. It's what we did. And yeah, I feel like advisors are very underlooked if they can make a huge impact in your company, whether it's through their network, their experience, their knowledge, and the way they get hands on, because it takes a village to build a company. And I don't think I was that aware of that when I started out, that it takes a village. And I changed my perspective on that.
That's very nice advice. What about? Oh, okay. I'm curious now. So, who do you reach out to advice for? Daiwa the
Well,
name?
so of course our advisor, but at the same time, I made a group of friends who are startup founders. I run I'm part of this female founder group that I meet up with every week on Friday. Actually, today we're gonna meet up again, and we've known each other for close to 2 years now. And initially, it started out as a fundraising group, like what it means to fundraise, what it means to discuss with investors. But eventually, it turned out into a support group for actually building your business. So that is one of the first groups that I go to, and it's easy because it makes you feel understood from different types of perspectives, and also it's a great resource. Like, I remember we were talking about how you make better decisions and how you minimize the time from your mistakes. And then somebody came up with the thing like, hey, I have a heuristic about how I make decisions. And also, I read this article on this thing. This would be useful. We even had
Mhm.
at some point one of our one of our friends brought somebody on to do like a session on how to manage your stress levels. And after at first I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna tag along because this is the group that I love. But actually it was more useful than I thought it would be. Like, I didn't know I needed that. We had this exercise where we rated emotions, and then we used different techniques to calm down the emotions when you get into a meeting, because the idea was like, oh, I get into a meeting and I don't feel like I know everything about the subject. So it was very useful. And we're all over US and Europe, and we meet every year multiple times, and I feel like it's very important to do that, and I'll tell you why. Because we also discovered, like, the big names in Silicon Valley have these groups, like, I'm not sure if it's a very well-known fact, but when Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, Meta, he didn't know particularly how to scale his company from a technological perspective. And he got Bill Gates to help him with that. And how he got that, it was because one of his peers in college, his mom was on the same board with Melinda Gates, and that's how he got
Oh,
him
I
to
did
help him
not
with.
know that.
Yes, so
Okay.
that is not a very well-known story, but all these people who you see who run huge companies, it's because they have a peer network of group like I have as well, that you can exchange knowledge with, network impressions, and also decision making. And I feel like it's very important. And even as female founders, if you're watching this, you need to find your peer group, get into a group, have a support group. It's very important. I feel like it's monumental, and each and one of us from the group has grown quite a bit since we've known each other, which is quite interesting.
No, this is actually very heartening to listen to because, by the way, I build communities at PropTech Buzz. That's one of the things I do at my company. And also, I am currently building a community that we're rearing to go. It's called Women in PropTech Global.
Oh,
So,
that is awesome. You gotta count
yeah,
me in. I mean,
yeah,
I
of
want to
course. Now
join.
I am. Now I'm thinking of making you the ambassador for it.
No, you gotta count me in. Now it's
Yeah,
amazing. It's
I
funny.
will.
Like, I go to, even in New York, I go to built-in world things. There was like huge conventions, and most often I'm the only woman there. And it's so frustrating because it's like, oh, it's a traditional industry, and it's like, it's a business, like everybody can do this. If you like this and you find a problem to solve, you can do it. And also I tell people, like, everybody's like, oh, property tech. No, we are in a building, I'm in a building, you are in a building right now. It's
Yeah.
basically, building is an infrastructure, is like building the history and the heritage for our kids and the generations that are going to come after us. So we need to make sure that we have the good infrastructure, the constructions are done right, it's something long lasting. We need to care about urban planning, we need to care about investments. It's important how money move, but we need to talk about these things. Like, it's not just, oh, we're just, helping people sell more. No, it's our future, and I think it's very important. So I'm excited to join the community.
Definitely, you're going to be the first person I'm going to reach out to. In fact, once I get done here, I'm going to go very quickly to my CEO and I'm going to be like, Ravi, you know what? And then I'm just going to tell him everything because even he definitely believes very heavily in community building and communion of people
You have
because
to.
that's where ideas are born and like-minded people need to hang out together. So, there is a study that shows that when you when two people are playing music together, when they're jamming together, their brain frequencies sync,
Yeah,
and that's what.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And you know what? Even spending time with those people, your frequencies sync. Um, no, I agree. And look, what helped me a lot coming to the States, that made me move faster, separate to anything, is finding the right peer of people who does the same thing. And it helps
Mhm.
because New York is very busy. Everybody's doing something and everybody is in their own thing. So it makes you act more like that.
Mhm.
And this is the kind of energy I would like to see all over the world.
Exactly, things that add value, right? When you walk away from them, you just feel it.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And so my last question to you is, what is the importance of community building and what in a startup, and what advice would you give to our listeners to take away today?
So there are two ways to go about this with the community building. Um, you need to have your own peer of community. Like you need other startup founders to surround yourself with. It's very important because it can get very lonely. For me, I know it was lonely for a very long while because I didn't go outside my bubble. And in terms of like your customers, they also need a community as well. I feel like everybody, if you separate to any type of business you're building, if you are to look at what we need to be seen, we need to be understood, we need to be supported. And how can you get that if not in a community? Sure, we have social media, we have tech, we have LinkedIn, but nothing beats like a good community. Even if you do it over Zoom, if you can do it in person, that's fantastic. So don't shy away from that. I know it's difficult, and also I recommend everybody get a CRM, build a CRM, build a CRM with people, and have a column that says frequency of follow up. And that's when you follow up with people. That's how you stay in touch with them. Stay in touch with them, just like, I don't know, an email, because it matters. It matters over time. If you want to build a company, it's important to have your support, because if you decide one day to raise capital, it's going to help because people will know you, people would know what you're building. One thing that happens, and I feel like this is separate, but I want to throw my conclusions around it. Why people fail to raise businesses, they don't know what they want from that business. And also another thing, it's like you don't have the network because you haven't maintained it. It's up to you, it's your fault. So
Yeah.
get your CRM, keep in touch with people, follow up with them, see where you can be useful, and how you can provide value. Like I got here, and hopefully somebody is going to take something very useful from this and take it on their own. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, that's it.
So that's actually the end of our podcast today. But Irina, I must say thank you for joining us. Your insights,
Thank you.
you have wisdom beyond your years, and you're
Thank
one of
you.
the yes, you're one of the smartest young ladies I have met, and very industrious. And I only use that for my mom. So you're a very
Oh,
industrious lady. In the next five or
amazing.
10 years, I'm going to see you going far, and I'm going to see Want grow exponentially. And thank you for joining in, giving us all your good advice, your all your experience. And as for our audience and PropTech Buzz, until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.